Hi guys, today this video is going to be a little bit different from the others. This is not a lesson. I actually did a lesson in French earlier. I'm gonna break down the swing of Alex, which is a good youngster from my country club. Alex is 15 years old. He's going to grow up a ton in the next few years, so the general aspect of posture, maybe the plane will change a little bit, maybe we'll get fitted for different clubs, etc. So the paint job, what I call the paint job, not the engine, will change. And the thing here is just setting up a blueprint for the next few years, not weeks, not months, next few years. He has a very good DNA, swing DNA, and it could be dangerous if he's not in good hands and if people interpret these kind of paint job changes and make something bad out of it. So I'm gonna focus on the good moves, on the bad moves, on what I really don't want anybody to touch, and just set up a little blueprint for the next swing changes. So we're gonna focus on sliding because he has a ton of it, and club face control because it's quite open in transition and it prevents him from using his body better. Um, Okay, so we are going to look for optimal stretch shorten cycles, so SSCs, so basically a muscle that's stretch and that wants to contract. This gives you automatic moves that instruction cannot really erase. So if we manage to maximize this, his good DNA will be set in stone, so to speak, and he won't be it will be harder at least to hurt him with instruction. So we're going to leave some things alone. So the setup is fine. I have really nothing to say about that. It's quite stacked. I mean, armpits, knees, balls of the feet is okay. Nothing fancy on ball position, on lie angles, etc. It definitely not stretches this arch, which could be a bad thing. So it doesn't do that, so don't change. It's not broken. Strong grip. You can see whatever. You can look at the knuckles. You can look at the moves of the joint. He's extended. Is pronated here on the forearm, so pretty strong. He has the left shoulder in internal rotation, so that's also good. Here, as you can see, the V is not that strong, it's quite neutral, but we can see that the armpit is looking there, so he has a little bit of external rotation on the shoulder, so that's also a feature of a strong grip. His right wrist is not into too much extension, so again, this would be weak if you have a ton of extension here, so it's quite neutral. It's not flex, but I mean, it's pretty neutral to strongish with that right shoulder, so really good. So I wouldn't really touch anything. Um, what wouldn't I change in the backswing? Definitely don't try to have this hip go down. Right now it's high. It's really good. That's something I wouldn't change. Uh, what else? He's got pretty good rotation. He has a little bit of spine extension, which is not really a problem because he is not really hurt because of that, and it comes because he kind of has a little bit too much right lateral bend, but we're gonna get back to that. Right lateral bend makes spine extension easier, and sometimes you can go overboard with it, but it's not the case for Alex. What else? Okay, I wouldn't let people change his club face at the top. It's quite neutral. Some people will call it shut because it's not really like the forearm, but that's coming from the front the strong grip, and I really never looking for club faces more open than that, unless people have perfect transition moves and don't end up with an open club face, which is the case for Alex. So don't change his position at the top. If anything, make it stronger. Okay, last thing on the backswing, look here. There's a left toe wiggling up and then down. What it tells me is that it's not really going into the instruction fad right now, which is to go straight into your left toe right heel. A ton of non-optimal athlete will turn this into a left pelvic tilt, a ton of knee bend kind of backswing, kind of piston-like, and reacting into suboptimal moves from the pelvis in transition. So what that tells me is that is not going straight into his left toe, which is good. We can see it on Dustin actually. I'm gonna show it to you. It's quite interesting. A few players have that, and on very good hitters. Here, maybe you can see it here. See, it wiggled up. On the camera is not stationary. I'm gonna use this one. There you go. Up, up, down, up, down. That tells us that is not going straight into his left toe. So again, idiosyncratic. It could be badly interpreted and changed. So to me, it says that is using his body correctly there. So if you see that on yourself, don't try to erase that move. It's a good move, and that's why actually he ends up in a good place here with a left hip that's high. So a good thing. Okay, don't quiet his feet. He's got pretty active feet. He's not staying planted here. His right foot's moving. It's not optimal. That right foot drag towards the target is not optimal. We're gonna get back to that. It's linked to his slide, but anyway. Don't quiet his feet. And don't change the left shoulder behavior at impact. Some people will call this chicken wing, kind of fall through, like so. What it tells me is that is left shoulder IR again. Desirable move. That's a move that stabilizes impact. So basically, it's like not letting the left shoulder lose that motion. Don't have it pinned to the chest and rotating in this direction. That would be detrimental. That would increase the rate of closure and destabilize the club face. So as you can see here, it still has a good amount of disconnection between this shoulder and the torso, and is definitely not letting this armpit rotate like that. That would be really a bad thing for him. So again, don't change this. Don't make him swing things with something pinned here under the armpit. That will destroy stability even more. What else wouldn't I change? I wouldn't change the way he has the spine bend. Would definitely not teach that amount of separation out of him. But there is another way to do it. And right now he's sliding a ton, so he's not really connecting the lower body with the upper body, so it doesn't translate into a tons of speed and tons of rotation, especially for his upper body. We can see that he's sliding quite a bit. That disconnects a bit the pelvis and the shoulders. The force are not really transmitted properly. That's why he ends up losing lag and kind of flipping through. Anyway, what else would I change? Well, that's already a ton. I mean, I definitely like this pattern in transition going to flexion. He creates kind of a deep left butt cheek. The pelvis is not losing a ton of depth, but because he slides so much, he's still goat humping a little bit. But he doesn't have a choice. What else do I like? Well, this pattern, this takeaway is good. Yeah, okay. So he has a ton of good moves. The problems I see is the slide. So we can see that is going to go way past his left ankle. So here, left femur is already past it. It's going to move further and further and further. So we can see that he's got quite the he's got quite a bend in his left knee, so that's really not optimal. He doesn't use the ground properly in the second fire. So it's like you had a door frame, like so, and you wanted to shut it down, to shut it closed, sorry, like this. But you had this part moving away from you, so this is very hard to close that door. So that's what's happening because he's sliding so far in this direction with the lower body. His arms and everything is staying behind. As you can see, it's way back relative to his torso, so it's not so stuck. It doesn't have a ton of right shoulder internal rotation. As you can see, the elbow is still in front of the hip, but it's very long ways trailing behind the lower body. From there, well, he doesn't use that, but if he were to try and push off the ground with his left leg, so hip extension, hip adduction, etc., it would just be able to turn it into a jump, so no rotation coming from there. He doesn't do that. It's kind of an endless slide and not really pushing off the ground. Um, we are looking for a femur that's a bit shy of the left ankle. With irons, it can be almost stacked, but the sequence of it is pretty important. So yeah, it's moving like at least 5 inches, I say, of slide to erase. You can see here what we would like him to do is having the left hip shoot away from target, down if possible, and away from the ball. So staying like so, so when he pushes he gets a little bit of rotation, and because he's not that far stacked here, you would be able to create more depth. Again, pelvis is an oval shape. If you want to rotate it, it takes a ton of space, so you better have this kind of left hip depth. So he's not doing that really badly. Actually, he could do way better, but his leg is completely broken here, and it cannot help at all through impact. So it's kind of a very quiet lower body through impact, and his hands are flipping at it. So yeah, he needs to get rid of the slide. Um, as you can see, his feet are not really coming together. I mean, they are coming together actually, but it's because of this right foot being dragged. Because he slides so much, we would like him to have a different move. So pay attention to this side especially. So he's rolling on the ankle. That's not bad per se. It's better than being completely on the toes. But what we would like is something different. We would like him to have a way better sequence. So the idea here is to have the pelvis rotate away, so away from target, so in this direction, and away from the ball, so in this direction towards this path. And you want the left hip to stay in internal rotation, kind of. So the patella, the kneecap, yeah, it's you want it to stay looking in the same place, or even look there. It's not really possible to look more closed because the pelvis is rotating, but the kneecap doesn't want to go. It's still rotating a little bit, but that's because the pelvis is rotating a ton and it's dragging it with it. What it will do is that it will stretch here the fibula, the fibulaire, whatever, the muscles here, and it will then trigger this move, which is very important. So that's left shoulder external rotation. There is also left hip abduction and left hip extension. And that's why all these guys have the left foot retracting. Tiger had that a ton. JB certainly has it. We can go to Bubba maybe. Let's go see Bubba there. I'm going to turn into a righty so you can see. So here the heel will replant more closed. So that means left hip is rotating internally. It means the kneecap wants to look there and not there. It is dragged open by the pelvis, which rotates like so, but it rotates a ton, so the kneecap is going here. And then it will fire into left hip ER, adduction, and the feet get closer together. That's why these things happen. We can go to Jamie Sadlowski for if you want really to see that move in particular. Well, on an iron it won't be that dynamic. Let's put him on the driver. So again, left knee replanting closed. There, replanting more closed than it was. So up, then down. So left hip IR, pelvic rotating away. So and then fire, adduction, left hip external rotation and extension. That's why the feet moves in this direction. Space has it, Michelle Wee has it, McDowell, I mean a ton of people have it. Sometimes it's a little bit more toned down. For Dustin it will be a little bit more quiet, but the moves are still there. You can see coming a little bit more together, a little bit floaty on this foot, external rotation, adduction, extension. That's what happens. So we would like that for Alex. In order to do that, he needs to get the slide out of the equation, otherwise he's not in a position to do it. He sent me a driver. With driver, it does it a little bit less. As you can see, left hip is a bit shy here of the left ankle. He could push, but he's really not in a position to do so. He's in external rotation already, has a ton of flexion, and he's just going to not use it and just extend post impact. So not useful for him. So we would like his sacrum to move away from target, not towards it. So here it's towards, sliding, 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 sliding. We would like his sacrum now to move slightly towards target and then rotate away from it. I'm gonna show you a good woodland view from there, or Dustin, whatever. I mean, they all do it well. So here, slightly towards target, then away, 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 away. Especially with the driver. Gary. So a little bit towards target, first part, and then away, 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 away. You can look at the belt, the belt loops. You can look at the sacrum if you can imagine where it is. So left hip depth, left hip away from the ball and left hip away from target. That will make possible the lag retention, and right now his lower body is moving there and the arms are stuck here. There, the arms are way behind. What we would like is the sacrum moving away and the arms getting more in front here. So here it would be able to have more lag and be somewhere around there. That's what we would like to see, because he has the arms trailing completely behind and so much slide, he cannot do that. Okay, so in order to get these moves better, what can help him would be to not let so much. As you can see here, his torso is pretty straight. Um, he has pretty level shoulders on an iron. It's just a 7, I think. And here you can see that there are no really. The torso is not shaped like so at all. We would like something like so, and we would like here. We would like more creases in his shirt. It's not tucked in, so it's still a bit loose. But if it was not loose, we would like to see a little bit of creases here and a shape like so for the torso with a little bit steeper shoulders. That would mean his spine would be in more left lateral bend, and it will want to rebound into right lateral bend. So he does have a little bit of right lateral bend, and he keeps doing it. As you can see here, the shoulders flatten, 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 and now he has this kind of shape and this kind of shape, which is the proper move in transition. But I mean, it could be more dynamic, and it could have a better effect on the pelvis. If you add right lateral bend and right lateral bend to your pelvis plus anterior pelvic tilt, so this is basically the belt buckle looking here and then looking more down in transition. If you have these two moves, it makes the pelvis rotate. So he has that, fortunately. So that's something he really has down. But because he's sliding so much, he cannot benefit from it, really. So a way to have a little bit better and something automatic would be to have. He already has the high left hip, so that's a really good point. But yeah, I would work towards something a little bit more in this kind of shape to rebound and have the proper pelvic move associate with it. Um, Now, club face. Here you can see that the club face is opening a ton during transition. So it's not very open at the top, but here you can see, we cannot see the club face, but you can see the moves. You can see that here it's more supination than pronation, and here it's very neutral. There is no such thing as left forearm supination and left wrist cupping, bowing. Sorry, we would like to see a little bit of that, and because he doesn't, he ends up with a face that's really open. If you imagine a swing arc that's like so, completely perpendicular to the arc, meaning zero club face rotation required here. Is quite a bit open actually. It's like 60-degree open. So if it was here, it would be better. We're looking for something close to a spine angle. So yeah, I don't have the frame in between, but you can see that from here to here it needs to rotate a ton, and it's still rotating through impact, and it's closing quite rapidly. Here you can see that it's already closed a ton. So a better frame rate would give me all the info, but I don't have it. So we will look for something perpendicular to the spine, so more in this fashion here, so like at least 30-degree more, and it should come from forearm pronation here, supination here, a little bit of left wrist bowing, and a little bit more of right wrist extension. He already, I mean, it's not like he has a ton of external rotation opening the face, a ton of left shoulder internal rotation opening the face. It's really that these moves in the forearms and wrist are lacking. And from there, the only way you can really flip it square, sorry, I gave the answer. The only way you can square it is by giving away his lag angle and flipping at it. Right wrist flexion and left wrist extension are definitely at work here to release that open club face, and it releases lag in the same time, so that's not really desirable. The grip's already strong, so I wouldn't touch that. I would really look to give him awareness on the forearm and the wrist moves. Okay. Now we're gonna go on to a few moves that are non-optimal, but that are not on top of my list for swing changes. So here you can see that he's pretty much into double external rotation here at the top. That's not optimal. We would like him to be a little bit more internal here with this hip, so a little bit more turn that way, because it would behave better in transition, and it would kind of make him go a little bit more neutral relative to this position here, where he's already very like that, very turned. The kneecap's already turned a ton, and it's going endless external rotation, and then it's stationary, and then it's moving but post impact, so it doesn't benefit from that. Okay, I would flex a little bit less at the end of the backswing. Here you can see that again, he has a good DNA, so it's not hurting him, but to me there is a little bit too much right hip flexion. It goes along with this amount of right lateral bend, so they are tied. I mean, right hip flexion, right lateral bend, and a little bit of spine extension are typically linked because they act to get you balanced. If he had a little bit less angle here, that would be a little bit better, and he could have that left lateral bend. The pelvic equation would be, I mean, the sum of moves changing the balance would be 0. So right now this hip flexion, this right lateral bend, and this spine extension match. We would like to have a little bit more extension and left lateral bend to match. That would be something that's balanced. What else? Yeah, lastly, we could look at his right hip. So right hip, as I said, is flexing, which is good. From here to here, it's flexing, so that's really desirable. If it was a little bit more extended, it would be flexing a bit more automatically, but anyway, he has it, so don't fix what's not broken. Here you can see that it's not really active with this right hip. What happens in this right hip is that the kneecap is going very fast. It's going along with the pelvic rotation, so he ends up here when he's already into internal rotation of this right femur. And the thing is that he has no gas in the tank, so here it runs out of gas. We would like this amount of rotation. If you look at the kneecap, this amount of rotation coming from the right hip, we would like him to have it during impact and not before it. As you can see here, you can see that the pelvis is kind of rotating away from the right kneecap. See, it's not really moving a ton when the pelvis is rotating a ton, so that tells us that Dustin is a little bit more into external rotation, like the right knee doesn't want to go, and that allows him to have all this rotation coming from the right hip, propelling him through impact and not stopping his rotation. All the very good hitters have that. Champ also comes to mind. So here, as you can see, it's not going at the same rate as Alex. It's resisting, and it has a ton of gas left in the tank to propel the last degrees of rotation through impact. That's also something that would not be optimal for Alex. So again, not top of the list, but try to resist a little bit there while the pelvis creates depth. The left hip goes away from target and away from the ball, and not let it go with the flow and just rotate instantly. Okay, I think that's it. I hope it wasn't too long. So fixes, slide first, club face, not open. You can act on a little bit more extended hip here to allow for a little bit more left lateral bend, which is going to lead to a little bit more automatic right lateral bend and automatic right hip flex. Then remove the slides, so try to have the left hip go away from the ball and away from target. Have this left hip go a little bit more like so, and in transition have both kneecap looking there while the sacrum moves away from target, away from the ball, and that will give a ton of space to have the hands in front of him and retain a little bit more lag and end up here. Because it won't be so far forwards, through impact it will be able to use the left leg and use left hip extension, adduction, and external rotation, which is already there. I mean, is rolling a little bit on the ankle. I mean, it's not like it's really completely 100 degrees off, but it could certainly benefit from a little bit more dynamism through impact to hold lag, to hold the face, and that's, I think, where it should go. So I hope you liked it. It's a little bit difficult to translate word for word the lesson I just did in French, so that's why I'm kind of slow in this video. Sorry for that. I tried basically to keep the same structure as I did in French, which is silly. I should just go with the flow and explain what I have to explain. But anyway, let me know what you think about this video. As always, if you have questions, fire away. Cheers.